In the dark heart of the 20th century's most devastating conflict, amidst the cacophony of war that engulfed nations, there stood the most feared echelons of the Nazi war machine. These units, distinguished by their ferocity, loyalty, and the terror they inspired, played pivotal roles in the unfolding tragedy of World War II. The Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, formed in 1933 as the personal bodyguard unit for Adolf Hitler, grew into a formidable force of over 25,000 men by the war's end. Distinguished by their ruthless efficiency and unwavering loyalty to the Führer, they were often at the forefront of the most pivotal and brutal campaigns, leaving a trail of atrocities from the invasion of Poland in 1939, through the Battle of the Bulge in 1944, to the bitter end in Berlin. Then, from the skies, came the scream of the Stuka dive bombers, a sound engineered to terrorize. Fitted with the Jericho trompete, these aircraft became the harbingers of doom for those on the ground. From the outset of the Blitzkrieg in 1939, the Stuka, piloted by men like Hans-Ulrich Rudel, the most decorated German serviceman of 1-2, served as the sharp tip of the spear, their wailing sirens a prelude to obliteration. Lastly, the Volkssturm, a national militia called to arms in the desperate final months of the Reich in 1944, comprised of men and boys as young as 16 and as old as 60. Lacking in training, equipment, and often will, they were thrust into the inferno of advancing Allied forces, a tragic embodiment of a nation's final, futile stand. As we peel back the layers of myth and reality, we ask, can you grasp the magnitude of fear these names invoked among their adversaries? And what lessons can we draw from the echoes of their infamous deeds? In reflecting upon the terror these units inspired and the devastation they wrought, we recall the infamous words of Heinrich Himmler: "The best political weapon is the weapon of terror. Cruelty commands respect. Men may hate us, but we don't ask for their love, only for their fear." This chilling sentiment encapsulates the philosophy underpinning the operations of the most feared Nazi units, exploring the shadow they cast over history and the scars they left on humanity. Welcome to the Diary of Julius Caesar. Shadows of History, the Einsatzgruppen's Trail of Terror. In the darkest chapters of the 20th century, amidst the tumult of World War II, there existed a force whose name became synonymous with the terror and atrocities of the Holocaust, the Einsatzgruppen. These mobile killing units, dispatched by Nazi Germany, carved a path of destruction and horror across Eastern Europe, leaving behind a legacy that the world would not soon forget. Their story is not just a tale of death and devastation, but also a chilling reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink. One poignant example is the massacre at Rumbula Forest near Riga, Latvia, where in 2 days at the end of November 1941, approximately 25,000 Jews were brutally murdered. The Einsatzgruppen were established following the invasion of Poland in 1939, but their most infamous operations began in 1941, coinciding with the German invasion of the Soviet Union under Operation Barbarossa. Comprising members of the SS, the Sicherheitsdienst, the police and the Gestapo, these groups were tasked with a sinister mission: the mass murder of Jews, Romani people, communist officials, and many others considered undesirable by the Nazi regime. In Lithuania, the 9th Fort massacres stand as a gruesome marker, where Einsatzgruppe A executed tens of thousands, illustrating the group's deadly efficiency. As the German army advanced, the Einsatzgruppen followed, conducting mass shootings in towns and villages across the newly occupied territories. Their methods were brutally efficient and profoundly inhumane. Victims were rounded up, often under the guise of resettlement, led to remote locations, and executed en masse. The ravine of Babi Yar near Kiev, where over 33,000 Jews were slaughtered over 2 days in September 1941, stands as a gruesome testament to the Einsatzgruppen's brutality. This event was chillingly encapsulated by the German poet Heinrich Heine, who prophetically said, "Where they burn books, they will, in the end, burn human beings too." The operations of the Einsatzgruppen were meticulously documented, revealing a chilling level of detail and bureaucracy behind the bloodshed. Reports of the massacres, euphemistically referred to as action reports, were regularly sent back to Berlin, quantifying the death tolls with chilling precision. One notorious figure, Reinhard Heydrich, the chief of the Reich Main Security Office, was a key architect of their operations. His directives set the stage for the mass executions, which he justified as necessary measures against partisans and potential threats to German security. Heydrich's cold efficiency earned him the nickname the Butcher of Prague, a testament to his ruthless nature. As the war progressed, the methods of mass murder evolved. The Einsatzgruppen were instrumental in the development of the mobile gas vans, a precursor to the gas chambers that would later be used in extermination camps. These vans, disguised as cargo trucks, were equipped with sealed compartments where victims were asphyxiated with exhaust fumes, a grim innovation in the mechanics of mass murder. The use of these vans in places like Chelmno exemplifies the chilling industrialization of death that characterized the Holocaust. The toll of their campaign was staggering. It is estimated that the Einsatzgruppen were responsible for the deaths of over 1 million people, a figure that includes some of the Holocaust's earliest victims. Their operations paved the way for the establishment of the death camps, where millions more would perish. Simon Wiesenthal, a Holocaust survivor and Nazi hunter, reflected on this dark period by stating, "For evil to flourish, it only requires good men to do nothing." The end of the war did not immediately bring justice for the victims of the Einsatzgruppen. Many of their leaders evaded capture or were not immediately recognized for their crimes. However, the Nuremberg trials and subsequent proceedings brought some to account. The Einsatzgruppen trial, specifically, saw the conviction of 14 high-ranking officers, shedding light on the harrowing scope of their atrocities. Otto Ohlendorf, commander of Einsatzgruppe D, unemotionally testified to the killing of 90,000 individuals, revealing the horrifying scale of their actions. Shadows and ashes, echoes of the Sonderkommando. In the darkest corridors of history, where humanity's worst atrocities lurk, the Holocaust stands as a chilling testament to human cruelty and resilience. Amidst the grim tapestry of this period, the story of the Sonderkommando units emerges as a haunting narrative. These groups, composed of prisoners within the Nazi concentration camps, found themselves in a nightmarish role, operating the gas chambers and crematoria, the grim machinery of genocide. The formation of the Sonderkommando units is a tale rooted in the early 1940s, as the Nazis embarked on their final solution to exterminate the Jewish population. These units were a grim fixture in camps such as Auschwitz-Birkenau, Sobibor, Treblinka, and Majdanek. Men, often Jewish prisoners, were forcibly recruited for their physical strength or because injuries rendered them unfit for other labor. This selection was a perverse survival lottery, ensuring their temporary survival at the profound cost of facilitating the extermination of their people. Primo Levi, a Holocaust survivor, poignantly captured the moral quandary faced by these men. Monsters exist, but they are too few in number to be truly dangerous. More dangerous are the common men, the functionaries ready to believe and to act without asking questions. These men, segregated from their fellow inmates, were coerced into the most grisly tasks imaginable, guiding victims to the gas chambers, extracting gold teeth, cutting hair, and disposing of bodies by cremation or burial in mass graves. Their work also involved the grim sorting of victims' possessions, a haunting collection of personal effects that were sent back to Germany. One Sonderkommando member, Shlomo Venezia, described this experience in his memoir Sonderkommando Auschwitz, providing a harrowing account of his day-to-day reality and the impossible moral dilemmas he faced. The psychological burden borne by the Sonderkommando members was unimaginable. Many resorted to emotional detachment as a survival mechanism, a way to cope with the daily horrors. Yet even in this darkness, there were flickers of resistance and defiance. Amid this darkness, flickers of rebellion and humanity shone through. The most dramatic act of resistance occurred on October 7, 1944, at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Sonderkommando members, fueled by a desperation for freedom and retribution, orchestrated an uprising. Utilizing explosives clandestinely provided by female prisoners from a nearby munitions factory, they destroyed Crematorium 4. Despite their efforts, the rebellion was swiftly quashed, with survivors either killed in combat or executed shortly thereafter. This revolt, while ultimately quelled, underscored their indomitable spirit, encapsulated in the words of Primo Levi: "We are slaves, deprived of every right, exposed to every insult, condemned to certain death, but we still possess one power, and we must defend it with all our strength, for it is the last, the power to refuse our consent." The narrative of the Sonderkommando is fraught with moral complexity, a tale of survival under the most grotesque conditions imaginable. These men, coerced into a horrifying role by their captors, embody a profound ethical dilemma, often judged by history with the benefit of hindsight. Their story challenges us to contemplate the depths of human despair and the instinct to survive. Survivor accounts and documents have gradually illuminated their experiences, offering a window into an unimaginable ordeal. Philipp Müller's memoir, Eyewitness Auschwitz, and the clandestine photographs taken by members of the Sonderkommando, risking their lives to document the truth, are crucial to our understanding of their plight. Sky Guardians, the echoes of German flak units in World War II. As the storm clouds of World War II darkened the European horizon, the German military fortified its arsenal with an array of formidable weapons. Among these, the flak units, equipped with the formidable Flugabwehrkanone, anti-aircraft cannon, stood as the steel sentinels against the Allied air forces. From the early days of the war, these units became the iron backbone of the Reich's aerial defense, a critical element in the Luftwaffe's strategy to dominate the skies. The evolution of flak artillery ranged from the nimble 20 mm cannons to the iconic 88 mm guns, renowned for their versatility in both anti-aircraft and anti-tank roles. The latter, introduced in the Spanish Civil War in 1936, gained legendary status for its accuracy and power. It was during the Battle of Britain in 1940 that the effectiveness of these units was first put to the test on a grand scale. London's skies bore witness to the deadly dance between the RAF's bombers and the relentless fire from Germany's flak batteries. General Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox himself, once remarked on the 88mm gun's prowess, saying, "Give me an 88mm gun and I will turn any beachhead into a meat grinder." Stationed from the deserts of North Africa to the cold heart of the Russian front, flak units created a deadly network of defense. In cities like Berlin, over 1,500 flak towers, some as tall as 70 meters, stood as grim guardians against the Allied bombers. The Ruhr Valley, with its vital industrial complexes, was so densely populated with flak defenses that it became known as Flak Alley. Here, during the fierce bombing campaigns of 1943, these units faced their greatest challenge. The notorious raid on Essen in March of that year saw the city's defenders engage in a fierce battle against a fleet of over 300 bombers, downing a dozen in a single night, a testament to their deadly efficiency. The heart and soul of these units were their crews, ranging from seasoned Luftwaffe personnel to, as the war dragged on, teenage boys from the Hitler Youth. The daily life of a flak gunner was one of constant vigilance and sudden, intense combat. Their world was one where the roar of engines overhead meant a dance with death was imminent. One poignant account comes from Heinrich Böll, who would later win the Nobel Prize in Literature, recalling his time as a flak helper. "We lived in a world of noise and fire, where to look up was to see our fears etched against the sky." The effectiveness of the flak defenses was vividly demonstrated during Operation Gomorrah, the catastrophic bombing of Hamburg in July 1943. Despite the relentless onslaught of over 9,000 tons of bombs, the city's flak units managed to inflict significant losses on the attacking forces. However, the sheer volume of incoming bombers and the introduction of new tactics, such as the use of window, chaff, to confuse radar, eventually overwhelmed the defenders. The raids laid bare the limitations of even the most formidable ground defenses against a determined air offensive. Personal stories of courage and tragedy, abound within the ranks of the Flak units. Karl Mayer's diary, detailing his experiences as a 16-year-old Flak helper in Berlin, offers a haunting glimpse into the life of those caught in the war's maelstrom. He writes of his astonishment at the beauty and terror of the aerial battles, reflecting on the strange camaraderie born of shared peril. In those moments, we were not soldiers but spectators of a deadly theatre, bound by a common dread and a flickering hope. As the war waned, the once formidable Flak defences could not prevent the Allies' advance. The ruins of the Flak towers, particularly those in Berlin, stood as somber reminders of the conflict's devastation. Yet, the legacy of the Flak units, with their innovative technology and the undeniable bravery of their crews, continues to captivate historians and military enthusiasts alike. They embody a chapter of World War II, where human tenacity and the relentless march of technological advancement intertwined in the shadow of the conflict's broader tragedies. As Winston Churchill once observed, "The farther backward you can look, the farther forward you are likely to see." Echoes through the mist, unveiling the Nacht und Nebel legacy. Amidst the turmoil of World War II, an ominous shadow was cast over Europe, not by the natural cloak of nightfall, but by a decree that signified disappearance and despair. The Nacht und Nebel, Night and Fog Directive, instituted by Adolf Hitler in a directive dated December 7, 1941, sought to combat resistance within Nazi-occupied territories through fear and obscurity. This sinister order aimed to vanish resistance fighters and political dissidents without a trace, their fates becoming as inscrutable as the fog from which the policy derived its name. The roots of Nacht und Nebel were planted in Hitler's impatience with the conventional prosecution of insurgents, leading to his command that those opposing the Reich should disappear into the night and fog. This decree was meticulously designed to demoralize resistance movements by erasing their members from existence, thereby sending a chilling message to would-be dissenters. High-ranking Nazis like Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich were instrumental in its enforcement, orchestrating the vanishing of countless souls across France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and beyond. The directive specified, within the occupied territories, the adequate punishment for offences committed against the German state which endanger its security or a state of readiness is on principle the death penalty, underlining the fatal stakes of defiance. In France, the story of Jean Moulin stands as a poignant testament to the decree's reach. Moulin, a high-profile figure in the French resistance, was arrested in 1943 and subjected to brutal interrogation by the Gestapo. Though he did not disappear in the Nacht und Nebel manner, his ultimate fate, dying from torture without revealing any information, embodies the spirit of resistance that the decree sought to extinguish. His leadership and sacrifice have become emblematic of the French struggle against Nazi oppression. The decree's execution was as meticulous as it was merciless. Special units, including the Gestapo and SS, played grim roles in this theatre of shadows, abducting individuals under the cover of darkness and spiriting them away to destinations unknown. One such place was the Natzweiler Struthof concentration camp, nestled in the Vosges mountains of France, which became a terminus for many Nacht und Nebel prisoners. Here, amidst the bleakness and brutality, individuals like Belgian priest Maxime Steinberg and French resistance member André Scheinmann faced the ultimate test of human endurance. Their stories are testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The psychological warfare waged by Nacht und Nebel extended into the hearts of occupied communities. The uncertainty of not knowing the fate of loved ones was a deliberate tactic aimed at spreading terror and discouragement. The case of the White Rose movement in Germany, where siblings Hans and Sophie Scholl were executed for their anti-Nazi pamphleteering, reflects the broader atmosphere of fear that the decree sought to instill. Their famous words, "We will not be silent, we are your bad conscience, the White Rose will not leave you in peace," echo the defiance that Nacht und Nebel was designed to suppress. Despite the intended effect of Nacht und Nebel to quell resistance, the spirit of defiance burned brightly across Europe. The French Maquis, the Polish Home Army, and other resistance groups continued their clandestine operations, bolstered rather than broken by the threats they faced. The Gestapo's own reports begrudgingly noted the continued activities of these groups, a testament to the indomitable will of those fighting against tyranny. The legacy of Nacht und Nebel, with its tales of vanishing heroes and the silent screams of the unseen, serves as a somber reminder of the depths of human cruelty and the heights of bravery. The stories of individuals like Norwegian resistance fighter Jan Balsrud, who miraculously escaped Nazi capture and endured a harrowing journey across the snowbound landscapes of Scandinavia, inspire awe and respect for the resilience of the human spirit. Shadows of the Reich, the rise and transformation of the Schutzstaffel. In the shadowed corridors of history, the Schutzstaffel, or SS, emerges as a dark emblem of Nazi Germany's reign of terror. This elite corps, born from the aftermath of defeat and national humiliation following World War I, evolved from Adolf Hitler's personal guard into a monstrous hydra, its many heads presiding over the darkest deeds of the Third Reich. Initially formed in 1925 to safeguard Hitler, the SS was a mere 8-man team led by Julius Schreck, who envisioned a loyal cadre bound by unshakable faith in the Nazi cause. This small unit, donning their distinctive black uniforms, quickly became a symbol of unwavering loyalty and fear, acting as the vanguard for Hitler's ambitions. Heinrich Himmler, an ambitious and coldly calculating figure, took the reins in 1929, transforming the SS from a personal guard into an ideological army aimed at enforcing Nazi racial policies. Himmler's vision was clear. The SS man is distinguished by his loyalty, his obedience, and his honor. Under Himmler's stewardship, the SS expanded into a dual organization comprising the Allgemeine SS, which policed the purity of German blood, and the Waffen-SS, a formidable military force. The latter, engaging in numerous battles across Europe, grew to over 800,000 members by the war's end, illustrating the SS's metamorphosis into a central pillar of Nazi power. The SS's reach was extensive, overseeing the Gestapo and the SD, security service, instrumental in the sinister machinery that executed the Holocaust. The Waffen-SS, meanwhile, carved out a reputation for military prowess and brutal efficiency. Units like the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler spearheaded attacks in key battles, including the Ardennes Offensive in 1944. Yet, their valor on the battlefield was marred by atrocities, such as the Malmedy massacre, where 84 American prisoners of war were executed during the Battle of the Bulge. The SS also enforced the Holocaust's grim logistics, managing concentration and extermination camps. Camps like Auschwitz, overseen by Rudolf Höss, became death factories where millions perished. The SS's doctrine of racial purity was enforced with a ruthlessness summed up by Höss. The Führer has ordered the final solution of the Jewish question. We, the SS, have to carry out this order. Within Germany, the Allgemeine SS embedded itself in the fabric of society, ensuring Nazi ideology permeated every aspect of German life. Through actions like the Kristallnacht pogrom in November 1938, the SS demonstrated its role as the executor of the regime's will, a fact chillingly articulated by Himmler. I know there are many people in Germany who feel sick at the sight of this black SS uniform. We understand this and do not expect to be loved. As the war turned against Germany, the SS's fortunes waned. Leaders like Himmler sought to negotiate with the Allies, betraying a desperation that belied their former invincibility. The end of the war saw the SS disbanded, its leaders tried at Nuremberg, and its legacy indelibly marked as a symbol of human cruelty. The Nuremberg trials, which saw figures like Ohlendorf sentenced to death, underscored the international community's repudiation of the SS's crimes against humanity. Whistles of war, the Stuka's Symphony of Fear. Amidst the turmoil that engulfed the world in the late 1930s, an ominous figure took to the skies, its silhouette heralding a new dawn of warfare. The Junkers Ju-87, known affectionately and fearfully as the Stuka, emerged as a symbol of Nazi Germany's air power. Its design was not just for aerial supremacy, but for psychological dominance. From its first deployment in the Spanish Civil War to its widespread use in World War II, the Stuka became a harbinger of terror. Developed by the German firm Junkers in the early 1930s, the Stuka was a marvel of engineering, designed to support the blitzkrieg tactics that would become synonymous with Nazi warfare. Its maiden flight in 1935 revealed a machine built for precision and terror. Its fixed undercarriage and inverted gull wings gave it a distinctive, menacing appearance, but it was the Jericho trompette, a siren whose wail mimicked the biblical walls of Jericho falling, that cemented its place in the annals of war. Hugo Junkers, the aircraft's designer, may not have envisioned the fear his creation would inspire. The Stuka's first test came with the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939, where it served under the Condor Legion, a unit composed of volunteers from the German Luftwaffe. Here, the Ju-87 honed its craft of destruction, its siren sounding the knell for those below. Its psychological impact was immediately apparent, as described by Ernest Hemingway in his dispatches, noting the unnatural noise like a giant ripping sheets of silk that demoralized Republican forces. World War II saw the Stuka's role expand, becoming a symbol of the early German victories. Its precision bombing runs were critical in the Blitzkrieg campaigns, notably in Poland, 1939, and France, 1940. The sirens, fitted to the Stuka's legs, were not just for show, they played a critical role in the Nazi strategy of terror. Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, boasted about the Stuka's ability to strike fear into the hearts of Germany's enemies, claiming it was worth a battalion of soldiers. Despite its fearsome reputation, the Stuka's limitations became apparent as the war progressed. Its slow speed made it vulnerable to enemy fighters, a flaw exposed during the Battle of Britain in 1940. Yet pilots like Hans-Ulrich Rudel defied these limitations. Rudel, the most decorated German serviceman, flew Stukas on the Eastern Front, destroying hundreds of tanks and earning the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with golden oak leaves, swords, and diamonds. His exploits, including surviving 30 aircraft shoot-downs, underscored the Stuka's potential when wielded by a skilled pilot. However, as the war turned against Germany, the Stuka found itself outclassed by more advanced aircraft. Yet, its psychological imprint remained indelible. The sound of its siren, designed to terrorize, had etched itself into the memories of those who heard it. Rudel himself captured the essence of the Stuka's role, stating, "The point of the Ju-87, which no other aircraft in the world had, was the psychological effect of the dive bombing. It had an incredible effect." Shadows beneath the waves, the saga of the U-boat fleets. In the murky depths of the world's oceans, where silence is both a shroud and shield, the U-boat fleets of the German Navy etched their name into the annals of maritime warfare with indelible ink. This saga, unfolding across the tumultuous expanse of both world wars, is a testament to human ingenuity, bravery, and the dark allure of the deep. The commissioning of U-1 in 1906 marked the quiet inception of a force that would grow to terrorize the Allied naval and merchant marines. Yet, it was during the First World War that the U-boats left their initial dark mark upon history. Operating under the chilling principle of unrestricted submarine warfare, these Unterseeboote aimed to strangle the British Isles, severing supply lines. The sinking of the RMS Lusitania on May 7, 1915, with 1,198 souls plummeting into the cold Atlantic abyss, underscored the lethal efficiency of this strategy. This tragedy also served to galvanize public opinion against Germany, particularly in the United States, drawing it closer to the fray. Winston Churchill, reflecting on the submarine menace, later remarked, "The only thing that really frightened me during the war was the U-boat peril." The Treaty of Versailles sought to curb Germany's military ambitions, including its underwater fleet. Yet, beneath the watchful eyes of the world, Germany's clandestine efforts in submarine development persisted. This shadowy groundwork laid the keel for the Kriegsmarine's U-boat fleet of World War II, an armada boasting tactics and technologies that would dwarf their forebears' achievements. The Second World War's theatres of conflict were once again haunted by the spectre of the U-boats. Under Admiral Karl Donitz's command, the Wolfpack strategy emerged, a tactic that saw U-boats hunting in coordinated packs to overwhelm and sink Allied convoys across the Atlantic. This period of the war witnessed the U-boats' zenith, where technological warfare beneath the waves reached new, deadly heights. The Battle of the Atlantic stretched from 1939 to 1945, a testament to both sides' resilience and ingenuity. Innovations such as the Enigma machine, which cloaked communications in layers of cryptographic secrecy, played a pivotal role. Yet the Allies' countermeasures, including the development of sonar and radar, began to turn the tide. The personal narratives of those who served on U-boats add layers of depth to this saga. Otto Kretschmer, the famed silent hunter, embodied the pinnacle of U-boat command. His tactics of stealth and precision brought him renown, yet his reflection, an enemy convoy spotted on the horizon, the excitement and the hunt, there is no greater thrill, captures the essence of the submariner's perilous life. Despite their early tactical victories, the strategic tide of the war turned inexorably against the U-boats. The Allied powers, leveraging their industrial might and technological advances, began to outpace and outmaneuver the German submarine force. The introduction of improved convoy escorts, air patrols, and anti-submarine tactics heralded the decline of the U-boat threat. The losses became unsustainable. Over 750 U-boats were consigned to the deep, a somber monument to the more than 28,000 submariners who met their fate beneath the waves. The legacy of the U-boat fleets is a mosaic of human endeavor, cast against the backdrop of the unforgiving sea. It's a narrative steeped in the duality of innovation and destruction, a poignant reminder of the lengths to which humanity will stretch in the name of victory. Their story, resonating through the corridors of history, serves as a testament to the courage, ingenuity, and ultimately, the human cost of warfare beneath the waves. Admiral Donitz, reflecting on the harsh realities faced by his submariners, once stated, "The sea is selective, slow at recognition of effort and aptitude, but fast in sinking the unfit." This sentiment encapsulates the brutal truth of submarine warfare, a realm where only the depths judge one's mettle. Echoes of the unseen, the unfolding saga of the Sicherheitsdienst. In the shadowy corridors of history, the Sicherheitsdienst, SD, stands as a monument to the extremes of human ambition and cruelty. Established in 1931 under the watchful eyes of Heinrich Himmler and the sinister genius Reinhard Heydrich, the SD was not merely an intelligence service, it was the heart of darkness at the center of Nazi ideology. It grew in power and scope, mirroring the Reich's expansion, until its name became synonymous with fear and oppression across Europe. The transformation of the SD into a tool of widespread terror was neither accidental nor sudden. By the time Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939, the SD had mastered the art of political purging. Operation Tannenberg and the subsequent Intelligenzaktion were grim testaments to this mastery, leading to the deaths of tens of thousands of Polish intellectuals, clergy, and nobility. The architects of these operations, men like Franz Six and Bruno Streckenbach, operated with cold precision, guided by a belief that Reinhard Heydrich succinctly expressed: "We must annihilate the intelligentsia, that is and remains the enemy." The SD's reach was not confined to the territories under German military occupation. Its Foreign Intelligence Wing, AMT-6, sought to extend the Nazi web of influence across continents. Intriguing operations, such as those intended to foment rebellion against British rule in India, were spearheaded by figures like Walter Schellenberg. Schellenberg's attempts to collaborate with Indian nationalist Subhas Chandra Bose in 1941 were emblematic of the SD's global ambitions, although these efforts ultimately bore little fruit. The Night of the Long Knives in 1934 was a stark demonstration of the SD's power within Germany itself. Over a few days in June, the SD decimated the ranks of the SA, along with Hitler's other political enemies, under the guise of preventing a supposed coup. This purge solidified Hitler's control over the Nazi Party and the German state, a feat that Heydrich gloated over, saying, "We have settled the matter, in a typically German manner, thoroughly and to the end." This event marked the SD as the regime's sword and shield, a role it would continue to play throughout the war. As the tides of war turned against Germany, the SD's operations became increasingly frenzied and destructive. In occupied territories, they implemented scorched earth tactics, attempting to leave nothing of value for the advancing Allied forces. The retreat from the Soviet Union in 1944 was marked by such acts of desperation, with SD units burning villages and executing partisans and civilians in a vain effort to slow the Red Army's advance. The post-war reckoning saw many of the SD's leaders standing trial for their crimes. Ernst Kaltenbrunner, who had taken over the reins of the SD after Heydrich's assassination in 1942, faced justice at the Nuremberg trials. His defense that he was merely a bureaucrat following orders was dismissed, and he was executed in 1946. His fate underscored the international community's rejection of the notion that following orders absolved one of responsibility for war crimes. Sky Warriors, the echoes of the Fallschirmjäger. In the tapestry of 20th century warfare, the Fallschirmjäger, Germany's paratroopers, emerge as figures of legend and innovation. Their story is woven with threads of daring, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of military excellence. The creation of the Fallschirmjäger in the late 1930s marked a bold foray into the uncharted skies of warfare. Spearheaded by the Luftwaffe under the aegis of Hermann Göring, these airborne units were envisioned as the spearhead of the Blitzkrieg, striking behind enemy lines to sow confusion and fear. Their training was unyieldingly rigorous, a crucible that forged warriors poised to leap into the void. "The sky must become our domain," Göring proclaimed, encapsulating the lofty ambitions of these aerial pioneers. Their first trial by fire was not just a military operation, but a declaration of the potential of airborne assault. The capture of the fortress of Eben Emmel in Belgium by a mere 78 Fallschirmjäger in May 1940 was a masterstroke of tactical audacity. Utilizing gliders to bypass the fortress's defenses, they secured what was considered an impregnable bastion in mere hours. This operation illuminated the path for future airborne endeavors and etched the Fallschirmjäger into the annals of military lore. The Mediterranean theater further witnessed the valor and versatility of the Fallschirmjäger. The battle for Crete in May 1941, known as Operation Merkur, was an airborne operation of unprecedented scale. Despite facing a determined and well-prepared Allied defense, the Fallschirmjäger's relentless spirit and tactical ingenuity prevailed. The cost was steep, with nearly 4,000 paratroopers lost. This Pyrrhic victory led Hitler to famously remark, "Crete proved that the days of the parachute troops are over." Yet the Fallschirmjäger's legacy was only burnished by their sacrifice, showcasing the stark bravery required to leap into battle from the skies. Their engagement spanned the deserts of North Africa to the Eastern Front's brutal cold, illustrating their adaptability and courage. Notably, their defense of Monte Cassino in Italy against Allied forces in 1944 exemplified their tenacity. Here, they earned the nickname Green Devils from their adversaries, a testament to their fierce resistance. The battle delayed the Allied advance for months, a testament to their skill in fortifying and holding ground against superior numbers. The Fallschirmjäger were not just warriors of the sky, but innovators in warfare. The FG-42 rifle, tailored for airborne troops, and their distinctive jump smocks were hallmarks of their commitment to excellence in combat. Their training emphasized not just physical readiness, but the mental resilience to face the uncertainties of airborne operations. Individual tales of heroism punctuate the Fallschirmjäger's story, such as Major Rudolf Witzig's leadership during the Eben Emmel assault, for which he received the Knight's Cross. His strategic acumen underlined the importance of surprise and innovation in warfare. Another emblematic figure, Franz Gockel, symbolizes the Fallschirmjäger's enduring spirit, fighting from the early battles in Crete to the final defense of Berlin, embodying the ethos of commitment and courage. The legacy of the Fallschirmjäger, however, is a tapestry with shadows. Their bravery and tactical brilliance were inseparable from the broader, darker narrative of the conflict they were part of. They remind us of the dual nature of military innovation, a force for victory and a harbinger of devastation. Reflecting on their story, one is reminded of Goering's words, not just as a boast of aerial supremacy, but as a meditation on the cost of war. The sky was not just our domain, but our destiny, a destiny fraught with glory and tragedy alike. Shadows of valor and infamy, the complex legacy of the Totenkopf units. Within the vast, dark tapestry of World War II, the Totenkopf, or Death's Head units, emerge as figures of daunting contradiction. These harbingers of death, marked by the chilling emblem of the skull and crossbones, traversed a path that intertwined with the darkest facets of human nature. Their story, embroidered with the dual threads of valor and atrocity, offers a stark glimpse into the abyss that war can become. The seeds of the Totenkopf units were sown in the tumultuous soil of early Nazi Germany, germinating within the paramilitary groups that vaulted Hitler to power. Originally conceived as custodians of the regime's most sinister institutions, the concentration camps, their insignia, became synonymous with the terror and oppression of the Holocaust. This period saw figures like Heinrich Himmler, the architect of the SS's expansion, and Theodor Eicke, the formidable commander of the Totenkopf division, ascend as embodiments of the regime's ruthless ambitions. Eicke, in particular, molded the division with a creed of unyielding loyalty and brutality, famously stating, "We must be hard, we must be without mercy." As the drums of war thundered across Europe, the Totenkopf units shed their jailer's keys for the arms of combatants. The 3rd SS Panzer Division Totenkopf was officially formed in October 1939, its ranks filled with men seasoned by their service in the concentration camps. Under the leadership of Eicke, the division was thrust into the inferno of the Eastern Front, where it quickly distinguished itself during the invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941. In battles across the frozen steppes, from the siege of Leningrad to the brutal confrontations near Demyansk and Kharkov, the division's ferocity became its hallmark. Yet, this ferocity often crossed into barbarity, as in the massacre of Soviet prisoners at Demyansk in early 1942, a grim testament to the division's ruthless doctrine. The Eastern Front was also the stage for the division's most harrowing trials and notable achievements. At the Battle of Kursk, in July 1943, the Totenkopf division, as part of the Waffen-SS, engaged in one of history's most monumental armored clashes. Despite facing overwhelming Soviet forces, they fought with a discipline and tenacity that, for a moment, transcended their notorious reputation. General Heinz Guderian, a key architect of Germany's Panzer divisions, noted the division's prowess, albeit in the context of a battle that highlighted both the zenith of German armored warfare and the turning point towards its decline. The narrative of the Totenkopf units is also marked by individual acts of both heroism and horror. One such figure was Otto Weidinger, who commanded the 4th SS Panzergrenadier Regiment, Der Führer, within the division. Weidinger was known for his leadership in the direst of circumstances, particularly during the retreats across Ukraine and Hungary in 1944. However, the division's and its leaders' reputations were irrevocably tarnished by their involvement in atrocities, a reminder of the indelible line between soldierly duty and war crimes. Survivor accounts and historical records offer a glimpse into the daily horrors faced by those imprisoned in the camps. One poignant story comes from Auschwitz, where Maximilian Kolbe, a Polish priest, volunteered to die in place of a stranger. This act of self-sacrifice amid such darkness serves as a powerful counterpoint to the prevailing inhumanity. Similarly, the rebellion at Treblinka in 1943, though ultimately crushed, demonstrated the prisoners' indomitable spirit in the face of certain death. The words of Heinrich Himmler, spoken in 1943, chillingly encapsulate the perverse rationale behind the Holocaust. I did not consider myself entitled to exterminate the Jews while allowing their children to grow up and avenge our sons and grandsons. We had to make this sacrifice as well. This quote, from a speech to SS officers, starkly illustrates the twisted logic that underpinned the actions of the Totenkopf and the Nazi regime as a whole. Shadows and Echoes, the tale of the Leibstandarte SS, Adolf Hitler. In the annals of history, few units have stirred as much controversy as the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. Born from the ashes of post-World War I Germany, this unit was a symbol of the Nazi regime's aspirations and its darkest impulses. Founded in 1933, initially comprising a mere 120 men, it was Adolf Hitler's personal bodyguard, tasked with protecting the Führer. Sepp Dietrich, its first commander, was a figure of unwavering loyalty to Hitler, embodying the ethos of the SS. Under his leadership, the Leibstandarte grew into a formidable force, a microcosm of the Nazi military machine, expanding rapidly as Hitler's ambitions swelled. From its inception, the Leibstandarte was more than a mere military unit. It was an ideological spearhead. As it grew into a mechanized regiment by the outbreak of World War II, its ranks were filled with men indoctrinated in the National Socialist ideology, ready to lay down their lives for Hitler. Their motto, Meine Ehre heißt Treue, my honor is loyalty, reflected a boundless commitment to the Nazi cause. This unit was at the forefront of the blitzkrieg into Poland in 1939, showcasing not only military prowess, but also a brutal efficiency that would become its hallmark. The invasion of Poland, while a military triumph, also unveiled the unit's darker role in the execution of the Nazi racial policies, setting a precedent for its actions throughout the war. The path of the Leibstandarte through Europe was marked by bloodshed and battle honors. In France, 1940, the unit's lightning advances exemplified blitzkrieg warfare, earning its members numerous Iron Crosses. Yet it was in the East, during the invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941, that the dual nature of the Leibstandarte became most apparent. The unit's role in the massacre of civilians and prisoners of war underscored the SS's commitment to the ideological war against Bolshevism. One of the most notorious leaders, Theodor Eicke, instilled a ruthless discipline, emphasizing that we must exterminate these scoundrels root and branch, encapsulating the merciless spirit of the SS. The Leibstandarte was not only a participant in military campaigns, but also in the atrocities that accompanied the Nazi occupation of Europe. The massacre at Oradour-sur-Glane in France in 1944, where 642 civilians were killed, remains one of the most heinous acts associated with the unit. Similarly, its involvement in the massacres on the Eastern Front, such as those in the Soviet Union, stained its record indelibly. Despite these dark deeds, figures like Joachim Peiper stood out for their combat leadership, embodying the complex legacy of the Leibstandarte. Peiper's charisma and tactical skill were overshadowed by his involvement in the Malmedy massacre during the Battle of the Bulge in 1944, where American prisoners of war were killed. In the realm of battle, the Leibstandarte earned a fearsome reputation. The Battle of Kursk in 1943 showcased its tactical prowess as it spearheaded the German offensive. Yet, the unit's valor in combat could not whitewash its role in the wider crimes of the SS. As the war turned against Germany, the Leibstandarte found itself retreating, fighting not for the Führer's vision, but for survival amidst the ruins of the Third Reich. The unit's dissolution at the war's end marked the end of a chapter written in blood and valor, a chapter that would be scrutinized in the cold light of post-war justice. The post-war fate of the Leibstandarte members varied, with some facing judgment for their wartime actions, while others slipped away into the shadows of history. The Nuremberg trials and subsequent war crimes proceedings sought to untangle the complex web of responsibility and guilt. Figures like Dietrich and Peiper became symbols of the broader accountability of the SS, their legacies forever entwined with the unit they served. Shadows of Silence, the Gestapo's iron veil over Germany. In the tumultuous echoes of the early 20th century, a name was whispered with dread and fear: the Gestapo. Officially birthed on April 26, 1933, by Hermann Göring in Berlin, this shadowy organization became the sinister embodiment of Nazi oppression. Its foundation was rooted in the dark desire of the Nazi regime under Adolf Hitler to silence dissent and enforce a monolithic ideology across Germany. The Gestapo, with its very inception, was not merely an institution, but a chilling portent of the terror that was to engulf the nation. The Gestapo's mandate was terrifyingly broad, encompassing the suppression of all state enemies. This vagueness was intentional, allowing the organization to target anyone from political dissidents such as communists and social democrats to Jews and other groups deemed undesirable. One of the Gestapo's early significant operations involved the arrest and torture of thousands of members of the Communist Party of Germany, effectively decimating the party's structure. The notorious Reinhard Heydrich, one of the key architects of the Holocaust, once chillingly remarked, "We must exterminate these people root and branch. The Communist Party is the #1 enemy of the state." This quote encapsulates the Gestapo's ruthless approach to any form of opposition. Under the guise of protective custody, the Gestapo detained countless individuals without trial, subjecting them to inhumane conditions in concentration camps like Dachau, which opened its gates of despair in March 1933. These camps became laboratories of torture where the Gestapo refined its methods of brutality. One haunting anecdote involves a prisoner named Hans Litten, who daringly cross-examined Hitler in court before the Nazis rose to power. Litten was arrested by the Gestapo and endured 5 years of brutal torture before succumbing to despair in Dachau. His story is a testament to the personal tragedies wrought by the Gestapo's hand. As Heinrich Himmler took control in 1934, the Gestapo's tentacles spread with even greater malice, becoming an arm of the Reich Security Main Office in 1939. This expansion allowed the Gestapo to operate with lethal efficiency across occupied Europe, playing a pivotal role in the deportation and murder of millions of Jews. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943, a desperate revolt by the Jewish inhabitants against deportation to extermination camps, was mercilessly crushed by the Gestapo and SS forces, exemplifying the brutal suppression of resistance. The Gestapo's power was magnified by its network of informants, which sowed distrust and fear within communities. An infamous example of this tactic was the case of the White Rose, a student resistance group led by Sophie Scholl. The group's efforts to distribute anti-Nazi leaflets at the University of Munich in 1943 ended tragically when a janitor betrayed them to the Gestapo. The members, including Scholl, were quickly arrested, tried, and executed. Scholl's courage in the face of death remains emblematic of the indomitable human spirit, famously declaring, "Such a fine, sunny day, and I have to go. What does my death matter if, through us, thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?" Iron Titans of the Western Front, the epic chronicle of the Panzer Lehr Division. In the annals of military history, few armored units have garnered as much respect and fear as the Panzer Lehr Division of the German Army during World War II. This elite formation, a leviathan of steel and fire, was not just any fighting force, it was the epitome of armored warfare prowess, born from the very heart of the German military's training and demonstration units. The Panzer Lehr Division's saga is a testament to the lethal efficiency of well-trained and superbly equipped forces in the maelstrom of the Second World War's Western Front. The inception of the Panzer Lehr Division in late 1943 marked a significant evolution in the Wehrmacht's approach to armored warfare. Unlike other divisions, Panzer Lehr was formed from the crème de la crème of training and demonstration troops stationed throughout Germany. These were soldiers who, day in and day out, practiced with the latest weapons and tactics, embodying the cutting edge of military technology and strategic doctrine. The division's very name, Lehr, meaning teach or demonstrate in German, reflected its elite status and its origin as the showcase of the German army's prowess. The division's arsenal was a veritable who's who of German engineering marvels. By early 1944, it boasted the formidable Panzer tanks, the behemoth Tiger Lanz, and an assortment of mechanized infantry transports and self-propelled guns. This formidable array of hardware was complemented by the division's human element, soldiers who were not just trained, but steeped in the art of armored warfare. Among its ranks was Major Hans von Luck, a seasoned officer whose tactical acumen and leadership were emblematic of the division's elite status. "In the Panzer Lehr," von Luck once remarked, "we were not just soldiers, we were the vanguard of the Wehrmacht's armored fist." The Normandy campaign of June 1944 served as the crucible for the division's baptism of fire. At Villers-Bocage, the Panzer Lehr, under the adept command of Generalleutnant Fritz Bayerlein, clashed with British armoured forces in a brutal demonstration of tactical finesse and armoured superiority. Despite the challenges of fighting in the Bocage, a labyrinth of hedgerows and narrow lanes, the division's crews manoeuvred their Panthers and Tigers with lethal precision, inflicting heavy casualties on the British 7th Armoured Division. This engagement, though costly, showcased the division's prowess in armoured combat and set the stage for its legendary status. The division's resolve was further tested during the Allied Operation Goodwood near Caen, where it stood in defiance against a massive armoured onslaught. Despite being outnumbered and facing the brunt of Allied air power, the Panzer Lehr's soldiers held their ground, embodying the division's motto, "Hard as Krupp steel." Bayerlein's leadership during these harrowing days cemented his reputation and that of his division as they inflicted significant delays on the Allied advance, demonstrating the strategic value of well-led armoured units in defensive operations. December 1944 witnessed the Panzer Lehr's pivotal role in the Battle of the Bulge, Adolf Hitler's last major offensive in the West. As part of the Excelsior 7th Panzer Corps, the division surged through the Ardennes, aiming to capture Bastogne and drive a wedge between the Allied forces. The operation's initial success was a testament to the surprise and speed with which the German forces, including the Panzer Lehr, advanced. However, the division's progress was eventually stymied by the determined defense of American forces and the logistical quagmire that ensued. Major General Norman Dutch Cotter, commanding the 28th Infantry Division, famously inspired his troops by declaring, "We're the 82nd Airborne, and this is as far as the scoundrels are going." His words encapsulated the resolve that the Panzer Lehr Division faced in the freezing forests of the Ardennes. Through the tumultuous final months of the war, the Panzer Lehr Division's might was gradually diminished by the relentless Allied advance, the attrition of constant combat, and the scarcity of replacements and resources. Yet, its legacy endured beyond the capitulation of Nazi Germany, enshrined in the annals of military history as a symbol of tactical innovation and the indomitable spirit of its soldiers. The division's story is more than a mere chronicle of battles and maneuvers. It is a narrative of warrior ethos, a testament to what General Heinz Guderian, the architect of Germany's panzer forces, once proclaimed, "The engine of the panzer is a weapon just as the main gun." The final stand, echoes of the Volkssturm. In the twilight of Nazi Germany, as the tide of World War II turned irrevocably against the Axis powers, a desperate edict was issued from the heart of a crumbling Berlin. On October 18, 1944, Adolf Hitler called forth the Volkssturm, a national militia that sought to conscript every able-bodied German man between the ages of 16 and 60 into a last-ditch defense of the fatherland. This move, born out of desperation, was an attempt to galvanize a nation facing the encroachment of both the Allies from the West and the relentless Soviet forces from the East. The men summoned to this People's Storm were a diverse and ill-prepared group. They ranged from eager teenagers, barely out of school, to weary elders who had lived through the horrors of the First World War. Among the ranks were figures such as Wilhelm Hubner, a mere 16-year-old boy awarded the Iron Cross for his service in the Volkssturm, epitomizing the youth thrust into this maelstrom. These recruits were handed antiquated rifles, Panzerfaust anti-tank weapons, and even agricultural tools repurposed for combat. The haphazard armament was emblematic of the Volkssturm's dire underpinnings. It was a force driven more by necessity and nationalistic fervor than by any coherent military strategy. The directive to form the Volkssturm emanated directly from Hitler's bunker, a stark symbol of a regime in its death throes. Heinrich Himmler, with his characteristic blend of ruthless efficiency and delusional optimism, was tasked with the formation and oversight of this civilian army. The Nazi propaganda machine swung into action, heralding the Volkssturm as the embodiment of German resolve. A quote from a speech by Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda, encapsulated the spirit intended for the Volkssturm. Every German, man and woman, shall be imbued with the spirit to fight wherever they are. However, the reality on the ground starkly contrasted with the grandiose rhetoric. The Volkssturm units were often poorly equipped, barely trained, and led by officials from the Nazi Party with little to no military experience. This lack of leadership and preparation was acutely felt among the ranks, leading to a pervasive sense of fatalism. A poignant reflection from a Volkssturm member encapsulates this despair. "We were not soldiers of the Reich, we were sacrifices to a lost cause." Despite these limitations, the Volkssturm was thrust into key defensive operations across the Reich's dwindling territory. In the battle for Berlin in April 1945, young boys and old men stood side by side, a last barrier against the Soviet onslaught. The scenes of these makeshift warriors, fighting in the ruins of their cities, were a testament to the depths of desperation reached by Nazi Germany. In places like Breslau, now Wrocław in Poland, and Vienna, Austria, the Volkssturm made their final futile stands, embodying the tragic culmination of Hitler's vision. Amidst this chaos, Ernst Tiberzi's use of the Panzerfaust against Soviet tanks in the heart of Berlin became a symbol of the Volkssturm's valiant, though ultimately futile, resistance. Among the ranks were individuals like Josef Schulz, a Volkssturm member whose alleged refusal to execute Polish prisoners has become a poignant story of resistance and humanity amidst the chaos. Though the veracity of such accounts is debated, they offer a glimpse into the complex tapestry of personal morality and national duty that defined the Volkssturm experience. The dissolution of the Volkssturm mirrored the collapse of the Nazi regime. Many of its members were captured or killed in the final days of the war, while survivors returned to a nation in ruins, their lives forever marked by their experiences. The Volkssturm, for all its symbolic significance, was a tragic footnote in the history of a war that saw humanity pushed to its limits. As we delve into the shadows cast by history, retracing the steps of the most feared Nazi units, we traverse a landscape marked by the footprints of both genius and madness. From the spectral paratroopers of the Fallschirmjäger, descending from the skies, to the relentless advance of the Panzer divisions and the chilling presence of the SS, each story is a thread in the dark tapestry of World War II. Figures like Kurt Student, architect of airborne assaults, and Heinrich Himmler, with his ruthless vision for the SS, remind us of the complex characters who played roles in this global drama. The tales of bravery, desperation, and innovation echo a time when the world was engulfed in the flames of war, offering lessons that resonate far beyond the battlefields. Amidst the tales of fear and valor, Anne Frank's words resonate with a timeless truth. How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. As the curtain falls on our journey through the annals of the most formidable Nazi units, let us carry forward the stories, the lessons, and the solemn reflections they inspire, ensuring that the echoes of the past guide us toward a more enlightened future.